what was important, and is still important then as it is now, it is to dedicate myself to helping people put food on their tables.
That's great. Can you talk to us a little bit about exactly what Delta Personnel is? So you do staffing, but I'm sure it's much more than just hiring people to fill jobs.
Yes, it is more than that. We are an intricate part of partnerships built with community leaders, with corporations and government entities. So we position ourselves not to only create a need of filling a job order, but actually create the need of building a community surrounding diversity and inclusion. We wanted to diversify the workforce that had come after Katrina. We were blessed with a culture shock of all different Hispanics from Honduras, Nicaragua, Venezolanos, Puerto Ricanos. It was a canvas that was the catalyst of what Delta Personnel has become today. We are a very proud staffing company servicing the region for 50 years. But within the last 15 years, we consider ourselves more of a partner to the workforce community than anything else.
So how long had you been president and CEO of Delta before Hurricane Katrina hit Louisiana, where your company is located?
So I, just a little taking you back, I married into the family in 1988 to a wonderful human being named David Lawrence. His father, Victor Lawrence, owned and operated a company called Delta Temporaries. That same year when I married David, we found out that Mr. Lawrence, I call him Pops, had been diagnosed with Parkinson's. The company was in a lot of debt and it was struggling. We both had different jobs. Neither one of us had a staffing background, but we knew that we wanted to take the company into a more positive light. So we both came in 1988. The company was 51% owned by Teresa Lawrence and 49% of myself, and then 49% for David. And that was a strategic move from the accounting partner that we had working on our progress of getting the company out of debt. I was a salesperson of the company. I learned a lot from my father-in-law, little bits and pieces that he could able to provide. He passes away in 2000. My husband does not want to continue with this company anymore, and I said, I think I can do this. Did I know that I could do it? I'm not sure, but I knew that I had my passion of what I was doing for the people. I mean, everybody that I would come encounter had a story about why they needed a job, why they could change the outcome of a company if I just give them a chance. I mean, I love all those stories, and I think that interaction built that passion to continue. And so I became the owner, full 100%, in 2000.
Wow, that's amazing. So you think really hearing from people about their personal stories and what they can do for the companies that you're trying to place them with, that was kind of like your aha moment where you were like, I can do this?
Everyone has a story. Everyone has a unique perspective of what they can do and they cannot do. Sometimes the biggest change in someone's life is when there's a adverse moment, a moment of fear. Like, I will not be able to get a job if I can't do this or can't do that. So what I did, I dispel all that. When I meet with people, I say, well, tell me, don't focus about what you can't do, because the job is calling for this. Tell me what you can do. And then start letting them tell you what their capabilities are. And once you start pulling that out of people and they say, and I can bring this and I can do that, or even if you give them some perspective of something that needs to be done, and then they start the conversation and give you a whole different angle of how they could change that job and what that job should look like. It's a lot of fun to listen. And then on top of that, you afford them a chance to change their living, to bring food to their tables, to the children, to, you change, when you employ someone, you change their lives.
Yeah, a job is the most essential thing that a person can have, really can change your life, like you were saying. So going back a little bit to talking about Hurricane Katrina. So you said you took over in 2000. It's 2005, you've been in the job for 5 years, and this life-shattering hurricane strikes your city where you're living. What did you do after that? How were you able to rebuild Delta and your community in the aftermath of this hurricane?
So our New Orleans office was totally destroyed. There wasn't just devastation to Delta personnel, it's a devastation to a whole entire community. So my resource, the things that I have to use are people. That's the only way that I can grow businesses. And there were no resources in the city. Everyone had moved out. So we went to Baton Rouge and we opened an office there. Crazy as this whole may sound, we bought 2 vans and we started driving people back and forth from New Orleans to Baton Rouge and Baton Rouge to New Orleans.
Really, driving them in vans?
Vans, yeah. So so the story goes like this: you wake up at 2:00 in the morning. You start your van. You go into somebody else's office, which is at that time was another contractor, and you put the people in the van and you drive them to New Orleans, and then you wait till they finish, and then you drive them back.
Oh my gosh!
So it was about. Between New Orleans and Baton Rouge is a 60-minute drive. It's a 60-mile, and it would take us 6 hours because
of the roads.
Because of the roads.
So you drove 12 hours, basically round trip every day, just to take employees to their job sites.
So we would leave at 2 in the morning, leave around 3 after we finish loading the van, and we'll come home around 11 o'clock at night.
Oh my gosh, that's real dedication to your job there. What do you think kind of drove you to make that sacrifice?
The people, building back the community. I remember sitting in the van one day and just thinking through it. I was like, I cannot do this for the rest of my life. I need to go and buy groceries at the store that I used to buy groceries from, and I need to, go buy coffee where I bought coffee from, and all those things. You start concentrating on one thing. And then one time, I remember just sitting in the van going, I'm just going to go to this hardware store. And I walked into the Ace Hardware and I said, are you guys trying to come back? And he said, yes. And I said, well, do you need people like to help you come back and clean up? Yes. And so I said, I have them. And so little by little, we allocated some trailers so that people could start living in that area and then close to the Ace Hardware. And
so you provided housing for them too.
We had to allocate, for the ones that really wanted to. They didn't have a lot of ties to them, but they could live in that place by themselves. Yes, we had to. We did a lot of things that we normally would have not done.
I was going to say, it sounds like you're doing a lot more than just providing people with jobs. You're providing the community kind of with a reason, to get up and do something every day after facing such devastation. So before you mentioned, in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, that the city itself changed and you had a lot of influx of different kinds of immigrants coming to the city. So how did you at Delta manage that new influx of people and incorporate them into your existing jobs that you had available to staff?
I had never positioned my company as a Hispanic-owned woman business until Katrina. So knowing that there was a disconnect between the community, the people that were now in our community, and the ability to have access to jobs, kind of positioned myself in the middle. I wasn't a resourceful Hispanic-owned business before Katrina. I was a business owner that provided employment to the community. In this change, Katrina, I had a new layer of service that I personally wanted to provide. So I started translating tools, if it was martillo, hammer, I started basics, so they could communicate. And they were people that wanted just to make a living. And so the challenges were they couldn't communicate. So putting 2 and 2 together and putting myself in the middle of that was kind of like the thing that made me turn things around for me personally, because then I had a purpose. I wasn't doing things for me. I was doing it for someone else.
So diversity serving as a source of your strength in the business, giving you a purpose.
Yes, it did.
So would you tell other people who are starting their own businesses, because you say, yourself, you weren't specifically thinking, I'm a Latina, I'm a business owner, and that's something that is an asset for me. Would you say that that's important for other Latina business owners like yourself to take advantage of, your culture and your background and be able to turn that into business success?
I think that sometimes we misread what people expect from us. Sometimes I think that we throw that first card out the deck. We're Latina-owned businesses, but we really are women that can bring a different perspective to businesses. Latinas have a different characteristic. We're very troubleshooters. We can connect the dots and we bring everybody together. Y esta es esta, y esta la otra, y lo ponemos así. Diferente from the male counterparts. So, do I use my Latina classification as a woman-owned business? Yes and no. My mother and my grandmother were the drivers of my life. There wasn't a barrier that I couldn't cross. Every expectation that they had of me was that I was going to exceed their expectations, not just mine but theirs. When we're in business with other women, and we're all conversating and sharing ideas, I don't think that I'd come up to you and say, "Look, I'm Latina, so listen to me." I think it's more like I'm a woman, and you're a woman, and we have a very common denominator, which is we nurture, we care, we listen, and we try to negotiate, and we try to get to the middle ground. And those two things together, But if the Spanish language helps someone progress, then that, by all means, you need to use that, which is in my case what I had to do.
So you're saying just trying to find something that connects you with the people that you're trying to work with, whether it's a shared language or shared values or just a shared work ethic. You think that kind of drives your success, being able to connect yourself with people that you're doing business with.
And your culture, it's easy to connect cultures. I enjoy meeting other Spanish speaking people, but I more particularly enjoy meeting Latinas. I think that's fantastic.
So you mentioned your mother and your grandmother and that they were really strong influences in your life. Do you think that your experience being raised by them has affected how you are as a business owner and influences your work ethic and how you run your company?
Absolutely. They had a very relentless spirit. I'll give you something funny. I remember my grandmother distinctively saying, "Do not depend on anyone but yourself." She said, "You never know where you're going to be, where you're going to be taken to, and you need to depend on you, no one else." Even when I married David, she would say, "Do not stay home. You go to work and you side by side with him, and don't ever think that he's doing everything. You need to check and double check and triple check." So the drive was so strong that I had nothing else but to prove to her I did it. And we're going for it. I remember, look, I went to school, and I was very blessed that the Catholic school brought me in. And I would come home every day, and I would come, I am an 8th grader going to a 5th grade, and no one spoke Spanish. And my mother, would listen to me every day, and I would say, "Mama, I don't know, I can't go to the bathroom. They don't even know what I'm saying." And she said, "Listen, Teresa, you're not the cream in everybody's coffee. Not everybody's going to like you. So find the people that do and learn English from them. But stop telling me about the people that don't like you." It was like,
that's a little bit of tough love right there.
It's like, stop it with that, But they're just women that they just wanted me to succeed. The first thing she said, "You don't have a father," because in our culture you have the man that drives you, and the man respect of the house, at least
that's a very strong element. Yes.
And you know how that is, your father, and so I didn't have a father. My father was left in Cuba, and we left on February 7th of 1973, and my father was hung in 1977. So we knew at that point that there was no point of him ever coming to America. And my brother, lost that figure, for him. But my mother and my grandmother were so strong that I was not to miss him. But the only thing that they would instill in me was, you don't have a father figure that would stand up for you in case something goes wrong. So you have to stand for yourself. No one would stand for you. And that was...
Do you think that, message to yourself that you have to stand on your own 2 feet, to be your own, support network, do you think that helped you expand Delta, to kind of take it to the next level, having that ethic inside yourself that, you can do it. You can put your mind to it and you can do it.
It starts so early in your life that you almost become numb to it, because I don't think that I have the power to do that. I think a lot of it has the way that I was born, the way that that my life was shaped. I had to leave everything behind. So losing everything in Katrina didn't mean anything to me, as it might have meant to other people, because I had already lost so much before, and we rebuilt right back, rebuilt our lives. So it's just a matter of taking that first step and driving it. As I look back, I always think, like, God was there for me then. Why would he not be here now?
Speaking of looking back, what were some mistakes that you made early on, and how have you learned from them?
When you think of mistakes, I make one every day. So it's for us is, my whole entire life has always been breakdowns. If I don't have those breakdowns, then there are no breakthroughs. There's no great ideas if there's no fear. Like, you have to be put in that space. And if you're not placed in that space and nothing comes about, then everything stays stagnant. Mm-hmm. So I like mistakes.
Mistakes are how you learn. If you do everything correct in your life, then you'll never have that opportunity to maybe learn to do something better.
Yeah, but we're so self-judgment about, you judge yourself constantly, whether you said the right thing, whether you blinked, or we do this thing that brings and just tears you up. So I tried to say, okay, well, at least this will happen. It's like, is this the worst thing that can happen? Okay, then I'm
Probably
good.
Probably not.
Okay, then I'm good. You always think, but sometimes when there's not enough ages not enough living that has taken place, and we're so self-motivated to say, I got to be perfect, instead of just saying, I can do it. It's not. So when you say mistakes, I think of, I love mistakes. Those are the best ideas that I come up with, when I have a mistake. Those are, because you got to think quick on your feet, you got to troubleshoot fast, and you got to come up with an answer. I like clients that challenge me. They said, Teresa, you said that this was going to be done by 12 o'clock, and it's 12:30, and I said, can you believe it? Then I would just come up with something, I know, but you just like, I just like...
Your brain just starts thinking.
Just start thinking about what do I say next, So I know I got off the subject, but I like being, I like mistakes. I don't know if it's not learning from them, it's more like new stuff comes out of it. It's like, okay, we started.
It's always a new day when you make a mistake, something is always a little bit different.
It is. Isn't it great? I know people are hard on themselves when they make a mistake.
I think women especially, there's a lot of thought that you have to be perfect, or that any mistake kind of gives an opportunity for somebody to say, maybe a woman shouldn't do this, or maybe, they're not really cut out for this. But what you're saying is important, that mistakes are how you learn, they're how you grow.
That's it. There's no pain in that. Breakdowns, breakthroughs. And I say that too, and you have to be...
Put that on a bumper sticker.
And you've got to have fear if you don't have fear, there is no challenge. I tell my children every day, Francesca used to play basketball, she won a scholarship, she's 6, my husband is 6'7", my daughter is 6'1", that one that lives in New York, and she would be so scared about not making it to the nationals, and I was like, well, be scared. I want you to be scared to death, because otherwise you'll be thinking, no, I can do this. Oh, no, I don't want you to think like that. I want you to be like, okay, be on your guard, be ready, be challenged, if you don't have fear, I agree. I'm probably not very. This is my grandmother, by the way. Teresa, ¿qué te pasa? Like that.
I think you're touching on a really important thing. You're right. There is a very strong culture, I think, especially among like professional women and, maybe especially if you're a younger woman, that, everything has to be like perfect, that you have to be, mistake free, and you have to be on all the time. And if you're not, then that shows this kind of weakness, and it gives people that opportunity to say, well, maybe, this just goes to show maybe a woman shouldn't be the president and CEO of a company. Like, look at what she's doing. She's making these mistakes. She's, giving us this opportunity to be like,
I'm going to tell you, the worst thing that you can do is that you can think you can do everything. The best thing you can do for a company is surround yourself with the people that can do it. Do not look at yourself as a weakness to your company when you're not able to look at a spreadsheet or look at a profit loss sheet, or you can't come up with the right percentage of profit margins. You hire the best. You surround yourself with a circle of trust, and then that is what propels your company forth. Don't rely 100% on yourself. Rely on a circle of people that you create, that they become so integrated, so crossed over, so tight knitten that they're net weaved. So they net weaved, not networked. A net weave is una cadena así que you can't separate. Mm-hmm. That's what makes a company grow. So I don't have to know everything. You have to hire people that know more than you so you can grow. I love hiring people with MBAs, because I sit there and I didn't finish college, so I sit there and I go, okay, let's go with that. Not necessarily that I think I am weak, but I think I will weaken my company if I thought that I could do everything. Mistakes are part of the deviation of your path, because if you don't deviate, then you don't analyze. You have to deviate to analyze. You have to have that aerial view, and the side view and the up view, so you can be able to say, oh man, or oh wow, it's the perception of today's women, of other women as well, of whether someone is thin or not, or heavy, and then so you start characterizing that person as weak, whether she's too thin or too heavy, instead of just reaching out, getting that support that person might need, and I know I talk about weight because that was the subject matter earlier today. They were like, I'm fat. I was like, I can't come here talking about fat or heavy, but I mean, one of the things that I thought about was like, if you surround yourself with people that, like, you're not the cream in everybody's coffee, find the right people, but if you surround yourself with people that can make a difference in you personally, everything else will pour into your business. If you have that inside you, all you're going to do is pour it. See, I think about people that don't share good ideas, or they keep every idea. Wisdom is free, and wisdom is given. The more wisdom you give out, the more the community becomes a better company, a better world to live. I mean, I want to share as much as I can. I want to share what I know how to do. But some other people think that if you share too much, then you become weak. Like, oh, she doesn't know what she shouldn't do so much.
No, I think it's really important that you are able to share with your employees, your expertise, and take from them their expertise as well. So Delta Personnel has over 900 employees. How do you manage all of that? How do you know that you are picking the right people? What do you think helps you kind of make that decision, as you were saying together, weaving all those people so that they're giving you the best support network to run your company that's possible?
The best thing that I think I bring to the table when we're talking to our clients is we do test for skills, but we hire for culture. It is a very unique fit of what we bring to our clients. And that is we actually do a lot of profile testing. I know you're able to do the job, but can you do it in this circle? Can you do it in a teamwork environment? Can you be analytical? Can you take criticism? Building a team takes a minute. It's not something that you can automatically build. It takes a while to build a good team that works in synergy. We do have over 900 employees in different accounts. One of our largest accounts holds 300 employees. It is probably the hardest combination of personalities we've ever built, but it's probably the most successful one. The very diverse group, which allows that company to be creative. The more diverse that group is, the better the opportunities of growing within the company and growing the company.
Our final question for our listeners here is, what are you planning to do with Delta Personnel in the future? What are your plans?
Well, within the last year, DPI has focused on diversifying our services. Recently, we won a $3.5 million contract with the New Orleans Ernest Morial Convention Center.
That's amazing.
It's huge. The facility is the 6th largest convention center in the nation, and it's consistently ranking in the country's top 10 facilities to hold conventions. This is the first time in the history of the convention center that a $3.5 million contract has been awarded to a minority-owned, disadvantaged business enterprise certified business. In the past, the awards were given to large contractors without any minority status.
That's amazing, but a little crazy that it took all the way until 2019 for that to happen.
And for us, it's a good way to include more minority opportunities in the city of New Orleans. When we were working on this contract, not only did we want the business, but we wanted to make a statement. So I reached out to the Black Chamber and partnered up with Cleaning Concierge, which is a disadvantaged business as well, African-American owned company who I had dealings with in the past. And the concept was to bring two diverse minority-owned businesses, like a Latina and an African-American-owned business, and to bid under one contract. My goal at the beginning was not that we were going to win the bid, but that we would send a message to the boards that there is synergy in our businesses and there is an opportunity for us to work together should it be awarded to us. It wasn't really thought that we would get it. Winning the contract was only the beginning. We had to mobilize an entire diverse workforce, and we immediately reached out into the community to make sure that everyone knew that we wanted to create a diverse work environment. So we reached out to the Asian community, we reached to the Croatian community, the Hispanic community, and the African American communities. In other words, we wanted to send a very clear message that we are a business driven by multicultural, multiracial goals greater than ourselves. We want to be the flagship that the city of New Orleans needed to open and continue to open doors for partnership opportunities between minority-owned businesses. Our drive to succeed with this contract coming together was beyond profit margins at that time. It was about people coming together to work together and share their multicultural, multiracial community. Now, when people come from all over the world and in the U.S., they can identify themselves with who they speak with. So in other words, if you have a Vietnamese attending our conference, or if you have a Russian coming to our country, they can speak in their language and identify themselves, as well as the people in the U.S. And we don't just want people to come to New Orleans and be impressed about what we did. We want them to leave with the impression that they can bring this back to their own communities and build communities that are diverse and inclusive.
Well, that's a really amazing story. Thank you so much for sharing this with us, and thank you so much for joining to speak with us today. It's really been an enlightening conversation about how business is more than just about dollars and cents, but it's really about the people and the community that you affect. So thank you so much, Teresa.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of In Her Footsteps. Don't forget to like and subscribe to In Her Footsteps wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a review and share our episodes on your social media. In Her Footsteps is produced by Michael Saltz. You can find more episodes wherever podcasts are available or at ushcc.com/inherfootsteps. Special thanks to Bank of America, who sponsors the In Her Footsteps initiative at the USHCC.